Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. It is time to show campaign gameplay in the game Great War at Sea, Far Side of the World, designed by Mike Bennighof and published by Avalanche Press. So in our previous video, we did the setup for the campaign game, and now we're going to follow it up by showing some examples of how the game works here on the large map, the operational map, although in this case it's such a wide-ranging scope, covers the whole world. So it's still operational, but it feels almost strategic in scale. I say it's still operational because you are still moving individual fleets around and trying to accomplish whatever your particular mission is as you assign it to your fleets. So let's get the gameplay underway. We will start with the weather phase, and as you can see here, it says at the start of each turn, the Central Powers player rolls 2 dice to determine which sea areas will be stricken by storms. Place a storm marker in each such area. The Allied player rolls 1 die to see if an Imperial convoy is formed. Now, in case you're wondering what that means specifically is, put my dice mat here so you can see this. I'm going to roll 2 dice like so. So we're going to roll. We got a 4. Okay, so 4 is the magic number. Now we look at the map, and any area that has a 4, such as this one, is going to have a storm. So anywhere that's a 4, we have one here, we have here, here. You see where I'm getting at. I'm going to put a storm marker in that hex, and the storm marker looks like this. So I'll do that off camera, rather, to keep this relatively quick. Okay, so I have placed my storm markers. We have a few over here. We have the Marshall Islands area. We have the Bonans, the Dutch East Indies, the Arabian Sea, the Azores, and over here, of course, we have the Gulf of California. I think that's all of them. So we move on now to the second part, which is having the Allies roll to see if an Imperial convoy is formed. So we'll place our dice. And here we're going to roll 1 die. I'll use red for the Allies. We got a 6. Now you check the player aid 2, which has the Imperial convoy table. Now, and then you look up your results. So here's our die roll. We go to 6. It says we stand on guard for the roll 3 dice. The result is the number of fast transports that begin in Labrador Sea and end at Bay of Biscay. Each transport that arrives safely is worth 5 victory points. Okay. So the first thing we have to do is roll 3 dice. And we got a 7. So there will be 7 convoys trying to get from the Labrador Sea, which is up here, to the Bay of Biscay, which is here. So it's only a couple of areas there. And of course, we do have a German fleet here. That is fleet number 7. So that is our single light cruiser, the Strasbourg. And we'll see if we can do anything with that. So the fast transports have counters that look like this. There are 2 types, fast and slow. So this is a fast transport counter. I'm going to take 7 of these, and we're going to put them in the Labrador Sea right here, which means we can use this guy probably to help protect them. We'll give them the appropriate mission and try to move the group over here. Now, because the counter mix only includes 8 of these, and that's true for a lot of the smaller things, you can say how many ships this represents. So in this case, this one counter, we're going to say, represents 7 transports, and we'll just put it right there in the Labrador Sea. Next up is the orders phase, where we, as the Central Powers player writes down the orders he or she wishes each of his or her fleets to execute as required by their mission, 6.5. I'll talk about that in a moment. For example, during this phase for the 2nd of August for a fleet with an intercept mission, you should be writing orders for 3 August. Okay, so we are in 1 August right now. So missions, right? We talked about this in the setup. So you have transport, which applies to Imperial convoys, right? All movement is plotted when Imperial convoy enters play. Now, I believe that means that everybody has to plot, but we have to plot the movement of the Imperial convoy, I believe. So let me check that. We'll go to 11.8 right quick and look at that. That's the appropriate rule for this. The first time he or she is directed to start a convoy, these transports are immediately placed as indicated. Once a convoy has been placed, treat any other roles calling for its placement as no convoy. The allied player may immediately assign any other fleets in the area an escort mission. Central Power players inform that a convoy has been placed, but not how many transport it contains. Now, because I'm playing solitaire, of course, I know how many it plays, it contains. But if this was a 2-player game, obviously that would not be the case, because the allied player does not have to tell and should not tell the opponent how many transports are there. So since we know there's 7 and each is worth 5 victory points, that's 35 victory points sitting there for the allies. And I guess we're supposed to use a fleet marker. If the allied player has no available fleet markers, all 18 are in play. A newly deployed Imperial convoy must be placed on station with all the attendant risks of Central Power's attack. So we're going to put this, since we have a fleet here, we'll just put it with that fleet, I believe, because we're going to give that it will get the transport mission. So that's fleet number 10. And again, you would not show your opponent this. So I'm going to take my marker, and you don't see 10, but it's right, but this is 5 right here, so it's right below it. And sitting there, in case you were wondering what ships we have in that area, we have the pre-dreadnought Glory and the Canadian protected cruiser. What does that say? Higby? Niobe. Okay. So the Niobe, cruiser Niobe, and the pre-dreadnought battleship Glory, HMS Glory, will be joined by our transports, 7 transports, and they will try to cross the North Atlantic to get to the Bay of Biscay. And of course, the Central Powers, we're going to give this here, which is number 7, will receive a mission to intercept, I believe, is the mission that would apply for that. Let me check that real quick. Intercept. Yes. All right, so let's talk about plotting. This is the log sheet. Here are all the turns of the game, right? This is all in 1914, so you run from the first week of August, I guess, all the way through to the, and they don't all contain the same number of turns. So that's why they just say 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's 6. 6 turns per month. Sorry about that. 6 per month, August through December. Then you have your various fleets on here. You can make photocopies. They gave us 1. So I was required or needed to make photocopies, because obviously if you use the one you get, then you don't have photocopies available. So you write your fleets up here, like fleet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For the Central Powers, who only have 7 currently. We can have up to 18, but we don't have 18 fleet markers. We only have, I think, 10. Yeah, we only have 10. Central Powers don't have a lot of ships, so that's probably why. So 2, 4, 6, 8. We have 9 columns here. Anyway, so for fleet number 7 here, we would just write 7 and say it has an intercept. An intercept mission, and we would have to plot its movement. So you can't cross these kind of junction areas. You have to go across a line. So the allies will also have to plot the course for this. So you would need 2 sheets, 1 for each side. Most of the stuff the allies do does not require them to plot movement. This is one thing that does. You have to plot your convoys, your Imperial convoys, as they try to go from A to B. So the shortest path, there's two options. You can go to the Davis Strait and then the western approaches and then the Bay of Biscay, or you can go Davis Strait, Eastern Atlantic, and then Bay of Biscay. The advantage of not going into the Eastern Atlantic is we have a no coal here, so there's no coaling station in this area where we could fix up our coal. That's probably not an issue. This is a short trip. It should not be a problem. But that's something that you would need to take into account if you were going, a distance that might require you to have to coal your ships, which means refuel your ships to get to their destination. So when I plot, and I'll show you the plot after I do it, I'll probably go Davis, western approaches, Bay of Biscay, but I may roll a die for it and say odds and evens to make it a little, and I'll do that for this fleet as well. Do they go here, which already has an Allied fleet? That is the French Atlantic Squadron. If I remember correctly from when I placed it, that is fleet number 2, and yes, that is the French. That is a lot of ships. Of course, it's a big area, and we'll get into what happens when they're in the same area in a bit. But these two, if they're in the same area, there's the possibility of combat, of course. And that's one single cruiser, a light cruiser at that, taking on some pretty solid. Well, they're not that great, I guess. 4 protected cruisers and a gunboat of the French Navy. So we may not want to do that. Of course, up here in the western approaches, we also have an Allied fleet, which is 15. And as I said, I'm going to roll a die. And if it's odds, we'll say we'll go to the western approaches. And if it's even, we'll go to the eastern Atlantic before going to the Davis Strait. That way we know, what did I say this was? 7? 15. Wow. 15 is some Royal Navy cruisers. We got an armored cruiser and 3 protected cruisers. This is definitely the more powerful of the 2 possibilities. So do we try to sneak the Strasbourg through here? I mean, we don't know. If we were playing 2 players, of course, we would not know what's what here. And I know I'm babbling a little bit, but I want to make sure that this point gets across, that we won't know what these are if we're playing the 2-player game, which this is a 2-player game. You can solitaire it. I tend to use dice, as I said. If I have 2 paths to take, I'll use a die or roll a die to determine which one I take. That way, I'm not using the knowledge I have that this fleet is less dangerous to my ship than this one is. Either way, we'd be outgunned and probably not do well. We could try to get out of there, but we would have to see. Anyway, so I'm going to fill out my log sheet off camera, and then I'll come back and show you how that works. Okay, plotting is done. I'll show you the allies first. So I'm only going to plot what I need to plot. So we have a transport here. Now, if I'm following the rules correctly, and this is a point I'm not entirely sure of, right? You always plot 1 turn ahead. So for this first turn, you're just going to assign the mission of transport. Then next turn, they'll move to Davis. Then I rolled, and they got western approaches to go. So they'll go here, and then they'll go to Bay of Biscay, which is where they would end, assuming they don't run into the Central Powers. Now, the Central Powers one is a little bit more complicated, although it's relatively simple. We have 7 fleets. I numbered them 1 through 7. And they're all getting raid orders except for this guy, which has an intercept order. That's this one here. So, and then their first move will be next turn and into the Eastern Atlantic. Again, I rolled, was it here or here? So right now, they're, of course, next turn, these 2, you have to split them. That was a correction I meant to mention. One of these is the transport. The other one, it has the escort mission. I didn't note that on the Allied sheet, but this fleet, they're just going to stay together, and they're going to move to Davis Strait, and then western approaches, and then here. So I'm going to roll because you have to pre-plot. That's the thing, right? You have to plan to where you're going. So we might just pass each other and not even end up in the same box. If you end up in the same box, you can elect to search for the enemy and see if you find them or not. And we'll get into that once we have some ships that are in the same area, which we do not have yet, but we will. Okay, so that's the orders. So all of these for the raids, you can see we have a raid, right? First turn, nothing. Then the next turn, they're going to move Coral Sea, Sea of Japan. So Sea of Japan is up here. This is the fleet that will move there. That consists of 2 cruisers, a protected cruiser, an Austro-Hungarian protected cruiser, the Kaiserin Elizabeth, and the German light cruiser Emden. So they're going to move up here, and then they would attempt to raid it. Now, there is a fleet here, an Allied fleet. Even if you did not know, you could quickly deduce that that is likely to be Russian because of where it's located, and that assumption would be correct in this case. The Russians have 2 protected cruisers there, the Jemchug and the Askold are up in there. So we could have ourselves a little fight, perhaps. While we attempt to raid, they will likely attempt to search once we move in there. Okay, then everybody else is, we have one here. They're moving there. These guys are moving to the Coral Sea. That's one. That's von Spey. He's here. So he's Fleet 1. He's going to move the Gneisenau, Scharnhorst, and Nürnberg to Coral Sea and attempt to raid there, which would be worth 4. And then after that, we would continue to move. We'll cross, which will bring us from this map edge to this map edge, and we'll move into this area. Phoenix Island, I think. I'll have to check where it mates up. It could be Samoa, could be Phoenix Island. Phoenix Island has a higher number. You can't see it because I could have zoomed out a little more, but I felt like this was about the best that I wanted in terms of being able to see everything. So we may move here because of the higher raid number, which is a 5. You can't see it, but it's a 5, and Samoa is a 4. Then from there, we could move to the Marquesas, then probably the South Pacific, and then Galapagos and Coronel, and go around Cape Horn and up, and hopefully not get wiped out by an Allied fleet. The game will end if we reach the end of December, or the Germans get all their cruisers to the North Sea, or the Allies destroy all the German cruisers. So that's why it was originally called cruiser warfare, because the cruisers are the main elements here. We do have some battleships and so on around, and obviously lighter cruisers and gunboats and transports and all kinds of stuff. So the next step in our sequence of play, the next step's actually movement. I did not talk about the missions for the Allies. So the Allied fleets each get missions as well. Their missions are a little bit different than the Central Power missions. They only have to plot movement for transport and escort movement. Essentially, the escort just conforms to the transport plot, which is what we have going on up here. Then you have intercept, which is a Central Powers mission, so they don't have any of those. The raid is also Central Powers. Actually, intercept could be both. The Allied player does not need to plot movement for a fleet with an intercept mission. Okay. Then we have blockade, which is an Allied only one. So the ports are Central Powers ports. We don't have any Allied ports on here because Central Powers didn't really have enough ships to successfully blockade any Allied ports. But it was obviously something the Royal Navy in particular could do. So we could say, and I did in fact say, that this fleet here is going to have a blockade mission. They're going to move up here and try to blockade Tsingtao. Makes sense, right? Then we have the this Australian New Zealand fleet down here, which will move north and blockade Rabaul. Then you have a fleet here in the Cape of Good Hope. We're going to send that around for Dar es Salaam. And we may end up moving this fleet. Right now it has an intercept mission. We're going to see if we can get this guy. And I don't have to plot my movement. So we'll get to that in a moment. But eventually they may get a blockade of Masawa. And then, of course, over here we have an option here. And well, this one's going that way. We have an option here to move in here and either try to take out this fleet, which it's number 5. But as I'm playing solitaire, I know this is a single gunboat. They don't necessarily know that. But in this case, they're going to go in here anyway. This is fleet number 3 for the Allies, which is 3 armored cruisers of the Royal Navy. The Kent, Monmouth, and Donegal. So they can all move in here and search for this guy, assuming he stays there, which they don't know yet. And then and/or blockade Yaoundé. What else? These guys are going to they're going to attempt to intercept this one, and these guys will attempt. What are they going to do? I'd have to look, but everybody has a mission, and in a lot of cases, it's really just kind of moving around and doing search, basically. So most of the Allied forces have intercept missions. The other missions they can do is the blockade one that I mentioned. So they really only have transport, escort, intercept, blockade. The Central Powers have intercept, raid. I guess that's it, intercept and raid. So that's your missions, and everybody will have one. Most of them will be intercept missions as you're trying to get, on the Allied side, as you're trying to track down and destroy the German ships, because you're looking for their cruisers, you want to wipe them out. That's how you win the game. You also are responsible, of course, for any Imperial convoys that come up. You'll have to escort them to their destination port to get those victory points. And on the German side, you want to raid the Allied commerce as much as possible while surviving and trying to get your forces home to the North Sea, where they can dock at home, return to Germany, which is in here, which is not labeled, but if you get them there, that's home base, and that is the goal. Okay, so let's move on to movement. Now, in terms of movement, the Allied player moves first, so they can move without written orders. Then the Central Power player moves his or her fleet to the location specified on the log sheet. What I'm going to do here is, because the Allies don't have to write stuff out and the Germans have to write stuff out and it has to be written out ahead of time, the Allies kind of have an advantage at the beginning because the Germans aren't moving. Well, there's one Austrian ship, but it's mostly Germans. They're not moving. The Allies, aside from these guys who are forming up, I guess, essentially, and then we'll move next turn. At least I assume that's how it works, because you can't plot ahead of turn 1 when, unless there's a turn 0 that I missed. I may have screwed this up, and I'm sure I'll hear about it from people who are much more familiar with either this game or Great War at Sea in general. So I may have screwed that up. But I'm going to assume that we can move the Allied forces around and they can begin to do their missions, which would be trying to get to the Germans. So we're going to take this fleet that's up here in the Gulf of Alaska and we're going to move it here. He has an intercept mission. We're just going to try and run down this fleet here, which we can get to now. I could have also gone to West Coast. Doesn't really matter that much. These guys have a storm, which will really only have an impact in a battle, mostly in a battle, or if they were already damaged, which they're not. Okay, so now we have this guy. We'll move him here, since there is a fleet there. Now, I think you don't necessarily write down or have these out on the map when you're playing 2-player, because it talks about searching and if opposing fleets occupy the same area, either or both. Well, it does that. See, this confuses me a little bit too. But we're just going to say that that's there. So if opposing fleets occupy the same area at the end of the move fleets phase, either or both players may try to find the enemy. To search for an enemy fleet in the same area, player rolls 1 die for each of his or her fleets in the area and applies applicable modifiers. And in a roll of 5 or greater, contact is made and battle resolved using the surface combat rules. The player is never required to search for enemy fleets, but the allied player may suffer some penalties if he or she declines to do so. If opposing fleets both find one another, only 1 battle takes place. That makes sense. Okay, so this fleet for the Allies is number 4, and the Central Powers fleet is number 3. So 4 for the Allies is a combination fleet of British and French ships, 5 in total. So you have the Essex, Lancaster, Berwick, and then the French ships, Conde, Descartes, and back to the Essex. Okay. All of these ships have a speed of 1, which is key for searching, because if you have a speed of 2, you get a +1 on your die roll. There's no leader attached to that fleet. Some of the fleets have leaders. I didn't really talk about that. We know Spey is with this one. The Allies have leaders as well, I think. But this fleet in particular, if I look at the setup, I believe does not have a leader. So yeah, here you can see, right, this is Central Powers. Yellow Sea setup, they have Mueller. That is right here. That is number 1. So they have, I think I might have forgotten to put the gun. Oh, that's here. That's number 2. It's right here. So you can actually see that one. And then down, where is it? So most of these have leaders actually on the Central Power side. You can see the Gulf of Mexico force has a leader. They have 2 actually, Kohler and Ludica. Okay, they are not searching though. Only the Allies are searching. So we're looking for the Allies that were in the Caribbean. And Caribbean, here we are. So these are the ships that I just mentioned. You can see there's no leader present. So Essex, Lancaster, Berwick, Conde, and Descartes. All right, so station ships would give you a +2. That is also not true. Searching fleet with blockade, mission searching for a coaling fleet, no. Searching fleet over 20 ships, no. Searching fleet has intercept mission, yes, that's a +1. So if they were station ships, they'd be +1. If they have a seaplane carrier, they'd be a +1. They don't. Searching fleet only destroyers or torpedo boats would be a -1. If there was a storm, it'd be a -1. Searching for a raiding fleet not on map. So that's the thing. If a fleet is a raiding fleet, it doesn't necessarily have to be on the map. I have it on the map, but it does have a raiding mission, so I am going to give it a -1 because typically, I mean, this is for ease of play for me, so that I know where everything is. In the 2-player game, you wouldn't have to put a raiding fleet out on the map. You would just keep track of where it is off map. And then once, so this guy could have moved to the Outer Banks and searched because he didn't know for sure if there was a ship there. In this case, for simplicity and because I want to show you how search works, that's how we're going to do it. So we would take 1 die. We had a +1 and a -1, so we need a 5 or a 6 to be successful. We got a 4. So unsuccessful search means they're in the same area, but they have not been able to locate each other, so there is no battle. I will now move the rest of my stuff around that I want to move. We can say that maybe this one moves here, and this one moves up here, and they think maybe there's something there, but there's not, of course. So, I mean, for me to just move that there, it seems kind of cheap. We could try to do this though, right? Let me roll a die. I'll say odds. He here, and evens, he goes there. Even, so he will move here, right? So that's how I kind of try and keep myself honest here when playing solitaire. This guy was going to move here. Now we'll do a search again. Now in this case, we have a gunboat. And so let's see. This fleet is number 3. And that came from the Narrows. Let's check again just to see. Narrows. That's armored cruisers Kent, Monmouth, and Donegal, and they do not have a leader. So this would again be a, I think just a straight up roll. And they got a 1. So 1 means no success. So they are in the same area, but no success. And this guy we were sending towards him. So we'll go here. Sending this one here. We again can have a search. Actually, you know what? Let's do it this way. We'll go odds here, evens here. That's a 2. So he's going to go here. And who else? We've got this one in Tahiti. So we can go, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. So he moves here. Then this one, we'll do same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3 goes to Tahiti. And you can assume that they're doing searches. I'm just doing this to kind of demonstrate how this might work. If all your fleets are raiding fleets, which in this case they are, except for this guy, then they're not going to be on map, and you would have to try to figure out where they are. So that's basically what that is. All right, so we'll move this guy up to Coral Sea, and I think that's everybody. Move him here, and we'll move them there. Okay. And I'm going to leave, we'll say I don't know, he'll go there, and maybe we send him to Davis. All right, so now everybody's moved. I don't think I missed anyone. And we would then continue our sequence of play, which would be conducting battles. We didn't have any, so we don't have to worry about that. Now we would move on to the weather determination again. So I would pull all my storm markers off here. Okay, pull all these off here. I think that I got them all. Yeah, I don't see any more. Okay, so we have our storm markers. Let's roll. We have to roll 2 dice. Again, so let me put this out. There we got a 2 and a 3, which is a 5. So this time all the areas where the 5 would be the storm areas. And again, I'll do that off camera. We've got one over here. They're going to be spread all around. Bay of Bengal has one. 6. One here. Here and here. And a few other places. So I would do that off map here, or off camera rather. And I don't think we have enough storm counters. So if we move into one that has a 5 like here, and we actually had a fight there, but we have no fleets that are going to be able to get there because you have to be within 1. You can only move 1 area. Regardless of any ships that may have a speed greater than 1, you can still only move 1 area per turn. Now this turn, the Allies would get to move again, right? First, but the Germans, in this case, or the Central Powers officially, would then move according to their plotted movement. So let's do this. So we're going to have this guy do another search, even though they don't technically know someone's there. So maybe we shouldn't do that. We'll move him here. And we'll move this guy. We'll roll for it. because again, in theory, they don't know if anybody's around. So we'll go 1, 2. Well, yeah, we haven't headed this way. So we have what? 3 options here, here, 4 options here or here. Well, let's say 1 will go here, and then maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And it's a 3. So that would be the West Coast. So they can visit the neutral Americans. Now, this guy, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, he's in got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 possibilities. Well, there's a fleet here. So let's do 1, 2, 3. Let's wait. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, let's just do 1 through 6. It's a 2. So that would be here. So we'll just move him there. Now we'll do this guy. He's also got 5. He's got 6, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, he's got 5. All right. So if he rolls a 5 or a 6, we'll move him to Cape Horn. He got a 6, so we'll move him to Cape Horn. And I just realized I forgot an important thing here. We have a new ship that arrives on turn 2. So we have to put the Duke of Edinburgh out. And as you can see, reinforcements, place in Arabian Sea on 2 August 1914, turn the AC-8 Duke of Edinburgh. So the Arabian Sea is here. We don't have any more fleet markers, so I have to put the ship out. So we're just going to stick him there for now. With that in mind, I'm going to take this fleet, 16, which is pretty large, actually. This is quite a big fleet here. We're going to move him up here, and we can join them together. So I'm just going to stick the Duke with the this pretty massive fleet here. So the Duke has joined, and he's got the pre-dreadnought Swiftshore, pre-dreadnought Goliath, the Ocean, another pre-dreadnought, and then light cruiser Dartmouth, the light cruiser Weymouth, Fox protected cruiser, and there's the Duke again. There are also a bunch of there's an armored merchant there as well, an armed merchant, the Empress Britain or Empire Britain, I forget what it is specifically, but anyway, not important really. So they're there in the Arabian Sea. These guys were going to move here. Okay, so you do searching after both sides have moved. I didn't say that because none of the Central Powers were moving last turn. So we know they're moving up here, so that they won't be able to search, but the Russians will. And down here, let's see, we've got the Allies. We were sending them here because they were going to blockade Rabaul. So they're going to move up there. And again, can't search. They're moving, but they don't know that yet. In theory, they wouldn't even know that this was here. Because again, it's got a raiding mission, so you don't know exactly where it is. This is a neutral ship. That's Italian, also neutral at this point in the war. And the Americans, of course. Now this guy, let's move him for where he's going to search. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 that he could do. So I would think we'll give this 1 chance, and we'll give this 1 chance, and then 2 and 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 5, so they're going to go back to the Cape of Good Hope. This guy's in the Cape of Good Horn. So he's got 3 options. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, so he'll go here. Cornell. And this guy, I think, was going to blockade. So we're not going to worry about that right now. Up here, for time's sake, I'm not going to move all of these guys around. We will, of course, move these 2 here. They were going to Davis anyway. on their way to the Bay of Biscay. Let's roll to see if this guy goes somewhere. So he's kind of in the middle spot. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places he could go. So we'll just do it that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He got a 2, so that would be here. Now let's see if this guy will go somewhere. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll give him a two chance to go to the Narrows, and he does. All right, move him there. And this guy's at the mouth of the Amazon. And maybe we'll look to see if this guy goes to the Western Approaches. We'll go odd even, Western Approaches or Norwegian Sea. So even goes to the Norwegian Sea. So that in theory opens this up. But of course, with the storm in the Western Approaches, that's well, he's not going there anyway. He's actually going here, I believe, if I remember correctly. So let's say that Allied movement is now done. We'll go to our log sheet again. Now we have places to move. So Fleet 1 over here is going to Coral Sea. So they are there, and then we'll roll for raiding after. Fleet 2 goes to the Sea of Japan, so that's up here. Fleet 3 is going to the Caribbean, so they go there. 4 is going to Chagos. Which one is 4? This one goes there. 5 goes to the South Atlantic, which is here. And 6 goes to Palmyra, here. And 7 to the Eastern Atlantic. So they go there. Okay. So before we get to searching, I wanted to talk about one other thing. I have not mentioned this, but one thing to remember is every time you move a fleet, you tick off one of its fuel boxes for all the ships in that fleet. I have not been doing that on camera or even off camera, to be honest, because again, I'm just kind of demonstrating how we play. And none of these ships, I think, will run out of fuel before we get out of turn 2, which is probably as much as I was going to do. So, having said that, now we can move on to how commerce rating works. And this, if you have the rules, is in 6.8, right? 6.8 right there. Okay. Conduct commerce raids. So, gunboats cannot. So I'm going to move him here and say that he's a station ship. All right. So this is part of movement, I believe, because it's in the search section. So that makes sense because you do have to search. So let's look at what we've got that could be searching. We know we have up here, and we have here, and I think that's it for searching. So we'll assume everybody else, like some of the allies, maybe would search empty boxes because they don't know where the raiders are. Right? So let's do this one first. So he's a gunboat, and he's on station, I guess, because he cannot be given an actual mission. So I think in terms of him searching, that would be a +1. But honestly, he doesn't want to be found by this particular fleet, number 3, because they... 3 cruisers, armored cruisers would probably do him in pretty easily. So we'll roll here. Again, they need a 5 or 6. And they got it. They got a 6. Okay, so for brevity's sake, because I showed how battles work in another video, I'm not going to show you the battle. We're going to assume this guy gets sunk. Okay, I'm just going to assume that, because the odds would not have been in their favor. So we're just going to make an assumption here for game purposes. So this blockade is now going to be in place. These guys would have moved, actually they moved there to join forces. But then next turn they're going to move, well, we could change our minds and say they're just going to blockade Massawa, or they can move here and blockade Mozambique Channel with Dar es Salaam being the port. All right, so the other search would be up here. So now we need to check because these, let's see, the Central Powers have a leader with them. This was the leader that this has Mueller, and they have some gunboats with them as well. And the Russians here, they have, let's see, Sea of Japan, right? They have 2 protected cruisers, no leader listed. So we are going to do a search here. And all ships have a speed of 2. That is not going to be the case because of the Kaiserin Elizabeth. The German cruiser Emden has a speed of 2. The Russian cruisers have speeds of 1. So we'll let the Russians search and the Germans Central Power search. If it wasn't for the Kaiserin Elizabeth, we would have, because the gunboats all have speeds of 2, I believe. Actually, I take that back. They do not. Okay, so we can't just blame the Kaiserin on this one. So they don't get that. They will get a +1 for the leader. Station ships. Let me confirm who's a station ship here. 11.7. Allied player may place ships on station. Okay. Well, the Russians haven't moved, so let's say they're station ships as well. So that's going to be a +1. Oh, a +2. Searching fleet with blockade mission. No. No. Intercept. No. Station ship searching. So the Russians will get a +1 and the Germans will get a +3. Okay. A +1 and a +3, although actually the Russians will get a +0. So let's do them first. They got a 5, so that is going to be a battle. I don't even need to roll for the Germans, but they would only need a 2. And they got a 1. All right, so then we would have a battle. I'm going to hold off on that for the same reason I just had, although this one would actually be kind of interesting to do because these ships are, I mean, they're not big. It's all secondary guns on the Allied side here with the, it's all tertiaries mostly. So we have some tertiaries here for the 2 Russian ships. This one has a secondary. So they would have 3 secondary guns. At the Central Powers, I almost said Axis. They've got the Kaiserin Elizabeth has 2 secondaries. Everybody else is a small boat, which would not. So we're just going to hold this for now, and I'll decide after we resolve the other stuff. I want to show rating, and then I'm probably going to wrap it up. And then maybe I'll let you guys decide via views whether or not you want to see more. So let's talk about rating. All right, so we have some areas here that can be rated. We can start over here in Palmyra, which has a 4. So now for rating, okay, you roll 1 die for each fleet, and you subtract the area's trade number from the die roll result to determine the number of prizes taken. A negative result is treated as 0. So the higher numbers make it harder. So in this case, that's a 4. So we roll 1 die. Get this out so we don't have rolling around too much on the, take the blue die, and we roll, we got a 1. So that would be an unsuccessful raid. No prizes. The Caribbean has a number of 2. And we got a 2. So that would also be a 0. So note we struck out there. They are on an intercept, not a raid. They are raiding. The number there is a 5. And we got a 6. So they get 1 prize. We'll talk about what that means. Maybe let's just say right now. When a prize is taken, the Central Powers player may decide to scuttle it or keep it. If capped, place a slow transport in the fleet with the ships that took the prize. Scuttled prize is worth 1 victory point. A prize later sunk by the Allies is worth no points. And if a prize enters the North Sea, it's worth 3 victory points. Central Powers player may scuttle a prize at any time. So that being the case, this is number 4, which consists of the Königsberg. Okay. So let us take 1 slow transport, and you can see like See the S there, TR transport, SO8. This is number 8, slow transport. So I'm going to put this with the Königsberg. So we don't get a victory point yet. If we scuttled it right now, we'd get 1. If we can somehow drag it up through the Atlantic and get to the North Sea, we can get 3. So that's how that would work. Now, other areas that would still need to be resolved, we have the Coral Sea, which has a 4. So we would need like a 5 or a 6. And we got a 1. So that also fails. And I think that's all of them. That is all of them. They don't have a lot of fleets, only 7. So that's done. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up. I'm done for now. We will return for another part if you wish. The way we'll determine that is 40 likes. 40 likes within 3 days, let's say. So 40 likes in 3 days and we'll get a part 2. If not, we'll be done. And I'll probably do a review and just talk about the game in general. So that is the way it's going to be. Quick shout out to my channel members. I appreciate the support. As always, if you would like to become a member, you can click on the join button. As I always say, is what I should have said there. But if you click on the join button, you'll get information on how that works. There's also a video you can watch that will show you kind of what you get and all that good stuff. Even if you don't do that, hopefully you'll consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing to the channel to help support it. If you're already a subscriber, thank you. But I do want to say thank you to everyone who's watched. I hope you enjoyed it. And even if you don't do any of the things I just mentioned, hopefully you will come back and watch something else down the road. But that is it for this one. So I am Joe. This is the Hexed Encounter channel. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.